could say the government started it. You could say they shouldn't have gone after the son of a man they once considered the most dangerous man on earth. But then this wasn't the first time they were arresting Ovidio Guzman Lopez. But this time, Ovidio had to stay in jail. Unfortunately, the Sinaloa cartel wasn't going to let that happen. Not without a fight.
A wave of violence swept through Mexico's Culiacan city on Thursday as security forces clashed with gang gunmen after the arrest of Ovidio Guzman.
So how did it all go down? And what was the full extent of the violence that wrecked the city of Culiacan? And where on earth is El Chapo's son today? Did El Chapo's third capture count for nothing? Joaquin El Chapo Guzman was once one of the richest and one of the most powerful cartel leaders on the surface of the earth. When he was in charge of the Sinaloa cartel, there was chaos. There was a lot of drugs in circuit and a whole lot of violence to go along. But after 2 dramatic escapes and a third capture that sent him to a hellhole somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Florida, one would think the situation in Mexico would have improved, that the violence would have reduced, and the drug trade would have, at the very least, slowed down. But none of that has happened. If anything, the situation has gotten worse since his incarceration. The violence has more than doubled. The drugs are still in vogue. And while the Sinaloa cartel has fractured in the absence of the kingpin, the new characters have stepped up to fill the gaps. Ovidio is one of those characters. Ovidio was born on the 29th of March, 1990. His mother, Griselda Lopez Perez, was El Chapo's second wife. Ovidio was the third of 3 sons that his mother had for El Chapo. Life was dangerous in the very beginning. In 2008, his immediate elder brother named Edgar got shot along with 2 friends while in a parking lot of a shopping center in Culiacan. Ovidio would spend most of his life in Mexico City, where he studied at a school that was run by the Legionaries of Christ. Unfortunately, his identity was no secret. Everyone knew he was El Chapo's son. The situation in school escalated gradually till it reached a point where Ovidio was excluded from a school trip because of his background. When his mother found out, she lost it. She took her son from the school and sent him to Sinaloa, where he was raised by his grandmother, El Chapo's mom, Maria Consuelo Lorera. It was believed that this was marked the end of the young man's formal education. And around this time, Ovidio began to meddle more and more into his father's drug trafficking business. From then on came the violence. Ovidio ordered a series of murders, assassinated a famous Mexican singer who refused to sing at his wedding, and cut a little drug trafficking corner for himself in the Sinaloa cartel. Soon enough, he got the attention of the authorities. He became a wanted man with a $5 million bounty on his head. And when his father got arrested and extradited for what seemed to be the last time, he teamed up with his brothers, Ivan Archibald Guzman Salazar, Jesus Alfredo Guzman Salazar, and Joaquin Guzman Lopez to form an alliance known as Los Chapitos, Little Chapos. Los Chapitos have since established themselves as a new age, brutal group. Within the cartel, they're feared, but they are in no way respected, and this has been the cause of serious contention as they fight to take their father's place at the top. But they have met a strong opposition from his colleagues, Aureliano Guzman, known as El Guano, El Chapo's brother, and Ismael El Mayo Zambada, one of the original founders of the organization. Despite the fact that Ovidio has been the one Los Chapitos member that has been in the media, he isn't the most powerful. In fact, he is the least powerful member, and his arrest will do very little to reduce the traction of the brother band. And that's why it's a little mystery why the government has been so bent in risking so much in ensuring his capture. Ovidio shares a lot of things with his father. Like his father, he loved the fast life and flaunting it for everyone to see. But unlike his father, Ovidio took it one step further. He shared his life on social media, and unsurprisingly, this attracted attention, lots of attention. In 2019, Ovidio was captured by Mexican Special Forces. The president of Mexico at the time, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, ordered the arrest. And when it happened, Ovidio put up no resistance. Maybe because he knew something that the Mexican government didn't. He knew the cartel would show up for him, and he was right. The days that followed his arrest were nothing less than brutal, as the sicarios from the cartel rained down holy hell, not on the Mexican forces, but on the entire city of Culiacan. The city went into lockdown, a cartel-enforced lockdown, as roadblocks were set up at every exit. They had practically taken the entire city capital hostage. This would be like if the Taliban shut down New York. Cars were set on fire, and families of Mexican forces who arrested Ovidio would look out their windows to see the deadly stares of hundreds of cartel gunmen waiting for the orders of their sicarios to enact vengeance. In their defense, their demand was simple: release Ovidio Guzman Lopez, but the government had no intention of doing that. At least not in the beginning. So when it became clear that they weren't willing to cooperate, Cartel took initiative and went on a chaotic rampage on a day that is now infamously known as Black Thursday. On that day, 14 people were killed, several more injured, and unfortunately, most of the victims caught in the crossfire were innocent bystanders. It took all of this to wake up the government. They were ill-equipped for the kind of forceful response that the cartel had responded with. They realized that more civilians would die if they continued with this battle. So they did the last thing anyone would have guessed they would do. They returned Ovidio back. It was shocking. And for many watching from the outside, it felt like a national disgrace. President Obrador defended his action by claiming he had no longer intended to meet the cartels with violence. Instead, he planned to discourage the next generation from joining cartels by engaging them with social programs. Meanwhile, Ovidio's freedom didn't mean that they weren't watching him. He was still under their radar, and it was only a matter of time before they would try to arrest him once again. Border security and immigration had been serious issues for America for the longest time, issues that President Joe Biden finally decided to address by paying a visit to Mexico.
President Biden tonight meeting with the Mexican president amid the immigration and humanitarian crisis on the border.
Coincidentally, days before Biden's arrival, the Mexican presidency decided once again to arrest Ovidio. Mexican intelligence pinpointed the young Chapo's location to a rural fishing community outside of Coyoacán. On the 15th of January, a Mexican army attack helicopter was deployed, and it rained hellfire down on the location as ground troops surrounded the community on every side. After a brief shootout, they captured Ovidio once again. Many people believe that this operation was done because of Biden's arrival, but President Obrador strongly refuted the claim, insisting that they hadn't been held by any foreign agency during the capture. I mean, what else would he have said? Once again, Ovidio's men caught wind of the situation. This was going to be like the last time, they must have thought. And since they won the last time, I imagine they expected it would be business as usual. Well, it turns out that the president had learned from the embarrassing operation back in 2019. He wasn't going to let Ovidio go. This time, he was prepared to fight. While the military and National Guard troops detained the 32-year-old drug lord, the presidency sent 3,000 Mexican soldiers into the city of Coyoacán. Yet, they weren't ready for the organization and sheer force of the cartel. Cartel gunmen opened fire with 50 caliber machine guns on the convoy transporting Ovidio, killing 10 soldiers in the process. But they failed to stop the convoy from whisking the young Chapo away. While this was on, another faction of cartel gunmen had turned their fury on the soldiers and civilians in the city of Coyoacán. There was a case of an army colonel who was ambushed and killed in a gun battle that also left 19 alleged cartel members dead. But the chaos was still far from over. Hundreds of civilian vehicles were hijacked by Sinaloa gunmen. These vehicles were then set ablaze on the streets by cartel gunmen as they set the rest of the city on fire. Convenience stores were also looted and some burnt, and yet when it seemed it couldn't get any worse, the sicarios proved that they hadn't even started. Their next objective was to ensure that Ovidio wouldn't be able to leave the city by air. So another section of gunmen stormed the city airport and laid siege. They began shooting at planes that were taking off with 50 caliber sniper rifles. It was terrifying to say the least. But somehow the situation still got worse. As the Mexican military pushed back and fought, a series of gunfire ensued on the city streets between the cartel and the special forces that lasted about 12 hours. About 30 people got killed in the process, 11 soldiers, 19 cartel gunmen, and a small boy. 2 innocent civilians got killed in their homes by stray bullets, and a 9-year-old boy got shot in the head, thankfully survived. But at this point, the government began to realize that they needed to respond with an overwhelming amount of force, or they would lose the battle for the city. So they called in a helicopter equipped with miniguns that would basically level the playing field. This was when the cartel gunmen realized the game was up, so they ran for cover. They had lost the battle 1-1. Meanwhile, Ovidio was successfully flown in a chopper to a federal prison where he now awaits trial. the Federal Social Readaptation Center number 1, Altiplano. This is the federal prison that Ovidio was sent to. It also happens to be the same prison his father was sent to after his second capture in 2015 and escaped by tunneling his way out. Unfortunately for Ovidio, he won't be escaping anytime soon because the prison has since installed reinforced steel fences in the ground and a new underground alarm system that would immediately go off if breached. If his men come with their troops to try to break him out, they will be faced with walls that are about 1 meter or 3.3 feet thick and incredibly hard to breach. He is also being watched by CCTV cameras 24/7 by 30 different guards that take note of everything from his breathing to his bathroom breaks. And to be extra sure there's no monkey business happening with the guards, they have another set of guards watching the guards that are watching Ovidio. Ovidio will remain in handcuffs at all times, and there is a very low chance he will ever escape. In the meantime, he faces the risk of being extradited to the US, which is every cartel member's worst nightmare. Hey, thanks for watching. See you all next time.